today, and then pass the host over to Arvind with Alberta Agriculture and Forestry, and he is the Greenhouse Rebate Program Specialist, and he's going to take us through his presentation on the program, and then we'll be open to questions and answers at the end. And as I said in the chat feature, which is available at the bottom of your screen, you can send chat messages to me throughout the meeting, and I will address those at the end. We're going to keep it muted for the call, except for Arvind, so that we get a good, strong quality recording. So Arvind, you should have control now and be able to share your PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, can you see the screen?
We can see it. Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Okay, good morning. This is Arvind, and I have with me Drew Hills. He is the manager of the program, and I would like to welcome all the participants today. Just to make sure, I just want to make sure that everybody can see the screen and also hear me well.
You might need to speak up a little, please.
Okay.
And if you can't hear it, say something in chat, or if you can't hear or see properly, say something in chat.
Okay, let's start now. Is it loud enough?
That's better.
Okay. Okay, we are here today to discuss and give information about the Alberta Greenhouse Rebate Program. This program is being administered by the Agriculture Grant Program section within the Government Department of Agriculture and Forestry. We will be discussing about the AGRP program, the eligibility requirements, terms and conditions, application procedures, and the timelines for this AGRP program. Let's look at the overall plan. AGRP is part of a broader plan, and this plan is the Alberta Climate Leadership Plan. The Climate Leadership Plan is the made in Alberta strategy to reduce carbon emissions while diversifying our economy and creating jobs. Agriculture and Forestry is part of this plan by managing AGRP and the Farm Energy Program. A brief note on the Farm Energy Program. This is also being administered by Alberta Agriculture and Forestry. This program targets funding at agriculture producers and processors for the adoption of energy-saving technologies and renewable energy. The Farm Energy Program consists of 4 components: On-Farm Energy Management Program, On-Farm Solar Photovoltaic Program, Irrigation Efficiency Program, Accelerating Agriculture Innovation Program. For more information about these programs, please contact our Ag Information Center at 310 Farm or 310-3276. Let's move on to the next slide. AGRP, or the Alberta Greenhouse Rebate Program. Let's take an overview of the program today. The AGRP is a discretionary non-entitlement program. This program is to facilitate the greenhouse industry transition to greater efficiencies. This program provides eligible greenhouse operators with a grant equal to 80% of the carbon levy paid on their purchase of eligible natural gas and propane for crop protection related heating within their greenhouses. Let's look at the term of the program. The AGRP program commences on January 1st, 2017 for a period of 2 years. This program will be reviewed on an ongoing basis, and the minister may change the terms and conditions of or may terminate the program at any time without notice. AGRP eligibility and participation. To be eligible and to participate in the AGRP, the applicant must be a registered legal entity, operating a commercial greenhouse in Alberta. The applicant must also have annual sales of eligible crops exceeding $20,000 in the 12-month period preceding the application date from the production of eligible crops. For new startups that have operated for less than 12 months, they must have an anticipated annual sales exceeding $20,000 in the 12 months after the application date. For eligibility and participation, let's look at what is eligible. Eligible greenhouses. This means a heated commercial greenhouse space under an enclosed area used to grow eligible crops in Alberta. Eligible crops. This means vegetables, fruits, bedding plants, cut flowers, ornamental plants, tree seedlings, medicinal plants, and other plants grown in a commercial greenhouse in Alberta. Eligible fuel use. This means natural gas or propane used in the heating of the eligible production area and as of the date of the application has eligible fuel use. I have my own personal greenhouse. What about me? Am I eligible? For eligibility, anybody who is registered and operating a commercial greenhouse with an annual sales exceeding $20,000 is eligible. So who is ineligible? Operators of greenhouses used for non-commercial purposes such as hobby or research purposes and any other entity deemed ineligible in the sole discretion of the minister. Let's talk about the application procedure now. It is a two-step process. In order to be considered for a grant, one would have to submit a completed application form and also complete an online producer survey. Along with the application, an applicant must also send in copies of their invoices. Both the application and the producer survey is available online on the Alberta Agriculture and Forestry website. A quick Google search for Alberta Greenhouse Rebate Program should bring it up. When you are on the website, please take some time to also look at the following. One is the AGRP Frequently Asked Questions form, and the second is the terms and conditions of the program. I would like to bring attention to the terms and conditions. This document provides the complete terms and the conditions of the Alberta Greenhouse Rebate Program. In the following slides, we will look individually at the application form and the producer survey. The application form. How do I apply? Let's take a look at the application form. You will find two versions of the application form online. Fillable version, this is the preferred option, and then we have the print-only version. With both versions, the applicant has to ensure that the application is completely filled, as incomplete forms will not be processed. There are 3 steps to fill in the application. On the application page, you'll see part 1. The part 1 of the application form requires the applicant details. Once you have filled part 1 with the details, go to part 2, which you will find on the second page. This is the first page of the application form. On the part 2, you will find the calculation of eligible fuel use for both natural gas and propane. When it comes to this part 2, we prefer the online fillable version, simply because the calculations are already built into the form. And for the purpose of calculation of grant, we require 4 values: total fuel use, less non-eligible fuel use, total production area in square feet, and total production area in square feet less ineligible production area. Once you input these four details and choose the levy rate for 2017 or 2018, depending on the application date, it is designed to automatically calculate and determine the total eligible grant amount. This saves time and also avoids any errors. To know about how the grant is calculated, please refer to the Schedule A on the Terms and Conditions page. Once you have input the details and the calculations are made, you would go back to page 1 of the application form. So I'm going to go back one slide, and then you will see the statement of certification. Make sure that you go to the statement of certification, print your name and sign it. The total grant amount would be automatically populated if you use the online fillable version of the application form. That's about the application form. Then now let's look at the producer survey. This is an online survey that should be completed as part of the application procedure. Unless this producer survey is completed, your application would be considered as incomplete and may not be processed. In many cases, someone from our office will be contacting you when additional information is needed as part of the application review. The survey itself is 20 questions in total. Depending on your answers, it could vary between 17 to 20 questions. Ensure that the survey is true and accurate. Copies of your invoices. Make sure that you have copies of invoices from your fuel service provider. This invoice should establish fuel usage and evidence the applicant incurred and paid. Please make note of the important red highlight. The name of the applicant must match the name on the invoice. Send in the invoices along with the application. Let's do a checklist, the complete AGRP application checklist. You will also find this checklist on the application form itself. Complete all sections of the application. Part 1, applicant details. Part 2, calculations of eligible fuel use. Provide your natural gas and or propane invoices for the relevant period. Complete and submit the mandatory producer survey. Submit the application page, the package. Where and how do I send the application package? Applications can be delivered to the AGRP program by either of the following methods. By email, this is the most preferred method. Scan and submit the application with fuel summary invoices and producer survey to agrp@gov.ab.ca. You will also find this email on the application form. Alternatively, mailing all the materials to the address on the screen. This address can also be found on the application package. AGRP application submission dates. Applications would be accepted semi-annually during the following submission dates, like on the screen. The first period is between July 1st, 2017 and August 15, 2017. And this is for the period between January 2017 to June 2017. Going forward, the submission periods would be semi-annually on the dates as you see on the screen. This information is available on our website. Note, just a note on this. If a submission date is missed, the applicant could submit the unclaimed retroactive invoices during the next submission period. Finally, some important points to remember with the AGRP application package. The application must be complete and accurate. Any application that is ineligible, inaccurate, or incomplete will be rejected or delayed for further processing. Complete application package consists of the application form, the producer survey, and invoices. An application is considered complete when you have submitted the application form, the producer survey, invoices, and the statement of certification on the application form is signed. Please note the name on the application must match all other documentation. Example would be invoices and survey. Remember the submission dates, which is semi-annual. Once the application is processed and it is determined that the applicant is eligible for a rebate, our office would send notifications indicating so. This would be via email. At that time, we would also request information for setting up direct deposits for timely payments. If you have any questions about this program, you could contact the Alberta Greenhouse Rebate Program either by email or by phone at 780-427-7259. You could email us at agrp@gov.ab.ca. This brings us to the conclusion of the presentation. Now we're going to open the floor for
Thank you very much, Arvind.
email or phone. Yes.
Yeah.
Please note that any
Very
questions that are not answered today, do not hesitate to contact us through email or phone, and we will be happy to answer them. Over to you, Joel.
Thank you very much, Arvind and Drew, for the presentation. We do have some questions. And I get a reminder, please send them through chat so we can and have them entered properly. The first question I have is about the $20,000 revenue minimum. For growing forward, the threshold was $10,000, and they're wondering why they've gone with the $20,000, please.
Excuse me, Drew here. Great question. I think the short answer simply is that we found that over time and looking at those applications under previous programs, that the threshold has been revised and changed simply to account for inflation over time. The 10,000 was a number that was been in place for many years, and we were just adjusting as a new program in terms of that.
Thank you. And then the second question was about the fillable form online and whether that is still only available in Internet Explorer.
Yes, it is only available on Internet Explorer.
Okay.
But just to intervene, I think that if applicants are wanting a copy to be emailed to them, our office wouldn't have an issue with that. So if for some reason an applicant wasn't able to or is having challenges with the online form, we can certainly send a copy electronically if that's helpful. So we're certainly willing to work with applicants where it makes sense to receive their application in the best method possible.
Yeah, so okay, perfect, thank you. Well, we can help facilitate that, Drew. And then we have a third question here about how closely the invoice must match the application. You know, I know a simple example is, you know, our legal name is Landscape Alberta Nursery Trades Association, but we often receive documents with Landscape Alberta, not the end bit.
So I think what we're really asking is that we remain consistent across those names. So if
Okay.
you're applying under your legal name, which is what we're asking, we would like to see that legal name throughout all the documents. If you have an operating name that you want to include in brackets, certainly feel free to do that. But we are asking that that name be consistently applied across all documents, simply because it allows us administratively to more easily assess your application and be consistent with respect to which information belongs to which applicant, so that we can timely review your application, as well as ensure that the information we're getting relates to the applicant specifically, both as an application, both as it includes survey information, and of course from a payment perspective, if we're looking at direct deposits, we want to make sure that those are set up to the right applicant, the right individual, and that everything aligns in terms of that information.
Perfect. I think that's a good answer. Thank you. I got a fourth question here, which is, when will it be decided if the rebate program would be extended, and what is the probability of its extension?
So I can speak to that as well. Great question. I think it's safe to say that all programs within government are consistently and continue to be reviewed over time, and that certainly doesn't exclude this one. So at this point, we simply don't know, but we will be working to review the program on an ongoing basis over the 2-year period of which it exists, to determine what next steps might look like as it relates to continuing the program or creating a new program or whatever else that might look like. So I think it'd be tough to make a guess as to what that might look like after the 2-year period, but we can commit to the fact that we will be looking at the current program and what we should and could consider in terms of any additional programs that may exist in this field going forward.
Excellent, thank you. I've got another question. I've got a couple more questions coming in already. One is doing the online package. Do they still have to be handed in physically?
When you go
Emailed
online, there's two versions. One is the application form, and then there's this producer survey. When you take the survey and complete the survey and submit it, we get the feedback at our end. But the application package has to be filled in, printed out, signed, and then sent through either email or by regular post.
Thank you. And then the follow-up question from the same person. Can we get levy money back through this program from property rentals where our workers live?
If I'm understanding the question correctly, the short answer is no. But I'm certainly willing to have a conversation, either Arvind or I, with the individual that has this question specifically, if we need to share further thoughts and get a better understanding. But I'm suspecting that the property has no impact on the production area in terms of eligible production area, and the gas being used in that area for the production of eligible crops. So based on what I'm understanding, looking at the question, would be no.
Okay. We had a simple question here, which was, are we okay with sharing the PowerPoint presentation with attendees to the call after?
We don't have a challenge with that, recognizing it's going to be posted online anyway. So if that's shared sooner rather than later, we have no issues on our end. Okay, thank you. Maybe they just don't want to listen to us, Drew, and just want to read the presentation. And then I've got another question here, which is, we've constructed a large commercial greenhouse that is operational starting in June. Are the costs during the construction phase eligible
for the rebate?
Drew here again. I think the short answer again is no, unless the facility is being used to produce eligible crops and using natural gas or propane to heat the area to produce those crops. If that's not happening, then it's not something that we would see or would consider under the program.
Great. And then we have a question here about the time frame it takes to receive the rebate from submission to payment, or an estimate, I guess.
So again, I can take a stab at that. I think that what I do know is we will work as hard as we can to get payments out as timely as we can. I think it's also safe to say that the first set of payments may take a little longer than, say, the second payment, simply because it will depend on the new information that we're receiving as it relates to setting up applicants in the system for direct deposits. That can take some time, and of course, being the first submission under the program, there may be a few little things that we may have not foreseen as part of our development of the program and the process as it relates to the payments. So we will be working as hard and as quick as we can to get those payments to folks, recognizing that the first payment may take a little longer than every subsequent payment after that. I don't have a real solid timeline, unfortunately, at this point, but what I will say is that if folks have any questions at any time as we work through the submission and the payment of rebates to applicants, to please contact our office, and we can certainly provide you with the information we have around timeliness, around simply answering questions that folks may be having some anxiety around as it relates to payments.
Thank you very much. And then I have a question here about those fillable forms and the paperwork. Is an electronic signature allowed through the program?
Unfortunately, at this time,
only?
yeah, unfortunately at this time, we are only able to receive physical signatures. So we recognize that that can be a bit of a barrier for some folks, and we're trying to work through that as an organization. But at this point in time, we are asking that folks do use the fillable form. It is the preferred form simply because it does automatically generate a lot of the numbers in terms of the rebate and reduces the calculation errors that may exist. Simply printing it, printing the form once it's been completed, signing it, and then running it through a scanner and sending it back to us. But certainly, again, we welcome folks to contact us if they have any challenges along the way in terms of that, and they can certainly submit the application followed by the page that needs to be declared in terms of signature as a one-page scan to be included in the package. So there's some flexibility there, but I think at the end of the day, we're not in a position to accept electronic signatures.
Thank you for clarifying. We have another question here, which is how the heat from lights is considered in the calculation of the rebate.
So it's a great question, and I part of the lengthy debates we had in terms of the creation of the program was to try and keep it as reasonable and as simple as possible when it comes to the applicants completing the forms as well as receiving the rebates against the intention of the program. So in terms of what is being rebated, it is strictly as it relates to the terms and conditions. So as you're producing crops in eligible production areas and using natural gas and propane to do that, the rebate is simply based on that calculation and the usage of those fuels. I think simply in my mind, maybe to help paint that picture a little bit, if you were to receive your invoice from your natural gas supplier, as part of that invoice, you will have a levy charge. And what we will be then simply considering under the program is how much and what percentage, based on the numbers that we receive from applicants, determining the reasonableness of those numbers, the amount that they will receive back as it relates to that charge. So that's simply kind of the nuts and bolts in terms of how the rebate is being applied. And we recognize that there are other elements in the operation of a greenhouse, such as lighting, such as combined heat and power units, and those sorts of things that aren't necessarily directly spoken to in the program terms and conditions, and that was intentful, so that again we could keep the program fairly straightforward and simple around the rebate of the eligible natural gas and propane back to the greenhouse growers that are eligible. So I hope that answers the question. If again, if folks want to have a more lengthy conversation around some of the elements, we're certainly receptive to discussing those more offline if need be.
Great, thank you, Drew and Arvind. Another question here, which is the survey available to be printed so the information can be gathered ahead of time?
Great question. At the end of the day, we do require that the online survey be completed, simply because it does allow us to populate data and collect data more efficiently and effectively through the administration of the program. If someone is wanting to see a copy of the questions in advance without having to simply work through the online form, I'm and the office is receptive to doing that. It would simply be a PDF document that we could email to folks to have them take a look at in advance the questions that they will be asked as they move throughout the survey. But the survey is still a requirement, the online survey. And we would still need the applicant to complete that online. If for some reason there are challenges around completing the online information on the survey, we will certainly work with those applicants as well in terms of populating that data that we require within our system outside of being online. But recognizing the scope of the program and the number of applicants that potentially are participating under the program, we are asking that applicants help us help them in terms of completing that online form.
Great. Yeah, and I think that the how I took the question was, yeah, that they just wanted to make sure they had all the relevant information in front of them when they sat down to do the online survey, and so a PDF would be helpful perhaps just to do that.
Yeah, and our hope is, Joel, that those questions are not onerous, in the sense that there really shouldn't be any real due diligence or fact digging, if you will, from applicants to complete the survey. So our hope is that the questions are general and broad enough that folks can click through them pretty quickly and answer the questions pretty easily without needing the questions in advance. But again, we're certainly receptive to sharing those if needed.
Excellent. And you sort of covered this next question a little bit in your last answer, but I'll just make sure we're clear on it. If most of the applications seem to be filling out a question or section incorrectly, will you be sort of notifying us in a broad way so that we can correct it going forward?
Yes, if we find some we need more information, we will be contacting the applicant, and we will be going back to them and asking them for more information, and we will take it forward from there if something is missing or if something is inaccurate. Vice versa, the applicant could also contact us, and we could make those changes or corrections.
Yeah, and we were talking, yeah, the question wasn't about an individual applicant, it was about if all applicants are filling out a question, or the majority are filling out something incorrectly, will you be communicating that through AGTA to other people so that we can correct a pattern?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, Joel, that speaks to a couple of things that we would need to take a look at. If everyone is answering a question in a way that we see to not what we had intended. That speaks to the fact that we may be not asking the question the right way, and we would need to take another look at that and revise that. And if so, we would certainly work with all the applicants around correcting that. And the other is, based on the survey, if we were to determine that that was needed, we would work with not only the individual producers, but also yourself as an association in terms of helping us sort of communicate and disseminate that out to those applicants. So our hope is that that isn't the case, but if it is, we'll certainly work to rectify and, of course, notify everyone as to what we had intended.
Thank you. I think that's a very good answer. We have another question coming in, a pretty specific one, but I think it could apply to others. Is our gas billing is on the 20th of each month? Should it be calculated for the 10 or 11 days before applying?
I guess I'm thinking through the question just so that I got it clear in my brain, but it might be one where we need to just connect with the applicant so we're clear. But at the end of the day, the rebate is to provide compensation for that monthly gas usage, whether it be natural gas or propane, that's eligible to up to 80% of the carbon levy. And as long as that is not applied for or duplicated, and so that is to say not applied for more than once, then however what that looks like for the applicant, we would need to work through that. So what I'm simply saying is, if an applicant wanted to provide their invoices and receipts for January 1st to June 10th, they could do that, but of course they couldn't provide receipts and invoices going forward for, say, June 1st to June 10th on their next submission. They would need to progress forward from there in terms of their ask or their rebate under the program. So we simply can't, of course, duplicate in terms of that compensation, but I'm not, I don't see an issue with the timing as long as it's within the January 1st January 1st, 2017 2-year period to the end of the program. So applicants have that flexibility to say maybe only apply from January to say March, and then do April to December in their next January submission. So there's some flexibility within the submissions and what they provide to us. So it doesn't necessarily mean that on the July submission they have to provide invoices and receipts from January 1st to June 30th, as long as they're clear in terms of what they're applying for and which time periods, and that they follow up from that on a continuous ongoing basis. I suspect most applicants will want to maximize their application in terms of that, and hence why the submission dates have that timing in terms of July 1st to August 15th. So it does give the applicant some time to receive that June payment or invoice to make sure that they can include that in their July 1st to August 15th submission to ensure that that next payment is sort of maximized in terms of making sure that they've got all their invoices and receipts that they can to us for that rebate. So hopefully that helps. But again, if there's still some unclarity and our office needs to talk further, don't hesitate to call.
Great. Another question coming in, is the calculation based on just on the price of natural gas or propane, or does it include all other associated costs like admin fees and delivery charges?
So it's based on as the application form describes, it's based on the total natural gas less the ineligible amount of natural gas, to use natural gas as an example, and the same as the propane. So when you receive an invoice on the carbon levy, we're able to provide up to 80% of that invoice. So that doesn't include other costs like office heating, administration costs, and those sorts of things. It is strictly for the production of eligible crops in eligible production area.
Great. Are there any other questions at this point? I can even unmute the line here in a second, but I'll see if any come in via chat. And we'll go from there. I'll give it 1 second here. And I've unmuted all the lines, so if somebody has a question they need to express verbally, please go ahead now. Hearing none, I thank you, Drew and Arvind, for this presentation, and we will be closing off the recording here in a second and be posting that online very shortly. And we have a copy of the PowerPoint presentation, so we can include that as well. Thanks to everybody for attending, and please let Drew and Arvind and the team there know if you have any questions. And of course, the Alberta Greenhouse Growers Association is happy to help if you have any questions as well. Thanks, everybody.